This
Good.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay, now that it's being recorded, it's 7 o'clock. We'll have a call to order. Everybody's here. We have quorum. So we'll go to item 3, confirmation of agenda. And with that being said, is there any discussion on tonight's agenda? Any discourse? Hearing none, I will go to the next part and say, be it resolved that the committee, actually confirmation of agenda. Can I have a move and a seconder, please? Jerry moves
I'll
it.
move it. Michael will second it.
Thank you, Michael. Good to hear your voice. With that being said, any discussion about the agenda? Hearing none, we will go into it. Be resolved that the committee confirm the agenda as presented. Do I hear, since we're online, do I hear any opposition to that? Seeing and hearing none, I will confirm that as carried. Item 4, the same old declaration of pecuniary interest. If you have anything to say right now, you can do it, or later on further with items in the agenda. Number 5, delegations and presentations. I don't think we have anything listed, so we will move on as per what you're supposed to do. Item 6, adoption of minutes from the last meeting. Is there any questions or items that we want to discuss before we adopt these? Hearing and seeing none, I will say mover and seconder for the adoption of the minutes. Excuse me. Do I have a mover? Muriel, thank you so much, love. A seconder for the adoption of the minutes. Yep, thank you, Jennifer. So with that being said, be resolved that the committee approve the minutes from the May 24th, 2022 Affordable Attaining Housing Committee meeting as presented. So that's a good thing. And anyone opposed? Hearing and seeing nothing. I love my new computer, by the way. It is a good thing. I can see everyone. So that would be carried. So we're looking at item 7 now, staff updates, terms of reference, review CL, Dave Molnar. Is Dave on the call or no?
I do not see him yet. I'm wondering if we should just move on to new business and then we can go back once Dave is on the call.
Holly, that is a very good idea. So if we can go to new business, 8.1, finalizing the survey, interest from Poverty Task Force, Muriel Scott. So here you go, love, your 15 minutes of fame. Don't take 15 minutes, but maybe 5.
Well, I'm really not talking the finalizing of the survey, but just to let everybody know that I had an inquiry from Jill Umbach. Hopefully I've got her name right. And it was on behalf of one of the Owen Sound city councilors, Carol Merton, that they wondered about our survey. And I think they were hoping we might share it. And I told them it was on the agenda for this week to finalize, hopefully. But they had particular interests, and the reason they asked me was because I'd been asking Jill earlier on if she had access to housing survey samples that we might be interested in, and she didn't at that point. But anyways, I guess she's had more than one request. So their particular interest was wondering if we had included any questions about Airbnbs on ours. And we happened, of course, but it is an area of interest to them. I don't know that it's relevant to us particularly, but in the areas where there's high tourist interest or high tourist populations in the summertime, particularly, maybe ski times too, they are dealing with, touristy people renting the short-term housing or rental units, and then they don't have those available for staff, for employees, whether they're just seasonal employees or not. So they don't have enough rental housing for employees to attract employees to the area. I don't know that we have that issue in the same way at all. So I'd said we don't have that included in our survey, but they were interested. I think they'd still like a copy if we decide that we want to share that, but they also were interested in general as to where our housing committee was at. So I was in touch with Dave just to make sure it was okay to share our report to council. So that has been done.
Yeah. Okay, Muriel, thank you. And the survey is going to be, it's out or going to be out.
It is
I can
out?
speak no, I don't think it's out yet, is it, David? The survey? I think there was some just formatting issues perhaps to tidy up, and then I think as long as the committee's still in agreement, it's ready to go.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
so a couple of tweaks and then we can send it on. I did get the email from Dave, you saying the Airbnb might not be a good fit for housing committee. And I think we can talk about that in depth in new business. As long as that survey gets out there, I don't think the committee has, like what we do here as far as our survey goes, it might be the same as other townships around us, but there are going to be tweaks in there that is specific for Southgate. So sharing information for me is still a good thing. So I have no problem with that. So any other comments as we go forward? Because I think there are some things that we can go into the new business part of the we're in the new business now, I guess. So I apologize for that.
I think, Martin, we just get it out. Let's get it out and
Let's get the
circulate.
survey out. Okay. Like I said, there was an email saying maybe the Airbnbs are not an area that the housing committee wants to get into. And I thought about that today when I was at work. If you don't want the Airbnbs, because there is a lot of trouble with tourists coming up and using them, I don't think maybe that's maybe a forum that the housing committee should go into, my opinion only, because it's profit driven. People have houses, they want to rent it out to Airbnb. So is it a good mix for affordable housing? And then on top of that, Dave, I saw your hand up. That leads into, the people living in motels for 2 weeks at a time. Is that affordable housing or is that social committees? So this is maybe a stickler for where the housing committee goes. So Dave, comments?
Yeah, and I think when Muriel brought that up, she kind of corrected me, if you will, because I think I took it a bit out of context. And I think Muriel's opinion is that Airbnb is in conflict with what we're trying to do, which I would agree. It's taking housing out of use. I mean, we see that in many communities, and when it's not available through normal rental, the Airbnb has taken up some of this available space. So it's very profitable, it's very attractive, but it's definitely in conflict sometimes with neighbors because of the type of parties that goes on because of the short-term rentals. But I'm not sure what we can do about it other than just drive on and make sure, you know, if there's some conflict with policy, maybe we can create policy to control it in certain areas. I'm not sure about that. We'd have to talk to planning about that.
Well, good points, Dave. I know there's some issues going on in Blue Mountain now and Collingwood area, all these Airbnbs, and a lot of people come up and don't know the bylaws. They don't know what they have to do with their garbage, and they're local residents. So I think maybe Airbnbs shouldn't be in our bailiwick, as they say, because they are profit driven. The other point that got me thinking about was the people living in motels for 2 or 3 weeks. Is that part of our, is that part of our mandate? Affordable housing. Is that not social? Jerry, you know more about this with your social work, housing and placing people. How does that work? Because we're looking at Airbnbs and motels. We're looking at affordable housing for people. God knows I want to say it right. People who are working and still have, and we can still do places for people who have need. So Airbnb, motels.
Thank heavens for motels that will rent to people on a monthly basis, because what else would they do?
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about two ends of the spectrum, like people that's their kind of their last resort compared to people that come in and they're on vacation and they're holidaying and visiting the area. So
Yeah.
I think we've got enough on our plates right now if we deal with the things that we started. Airbnbs, it's part of this whole private sector versus public housing. It's never going to be easy. And if an owner of a motel finds out that they can get more money renting to Airbnb or rental units, there's no law in this land yet that says they can't rent to them. So there's no point of us taking on the capitalist system. We'd be better to focus on what we can do with affordable housing that we can have some control over, or in going forward, the Housing Development Corp could have some control over ensuring that there's going to be affordable housing, that they stay affordable. Anyway, that's just my thought on it.
No, that's fine. I just saw the emails, and there were two different kind of ideas to look at. I just wanted to make sure that the committee knows we're not really want to get involved with those two things, and there's social people that can do that, and we'll stick to our guns and do what we can as far as developers and using land in Southgate then. So, okay, any more comments on that?
I'm just wondering if we're aware of very much Airbnb activity in this township.
I would have to say there's probably quite a bit, because we're in Southgate is on the southern tip of Grey County. I'm pretty sure there's a few up here, and Dave's got his hand up, but I think there'll probably be more in the future, put it that way. So, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, we're not seeing as many as other communities. It's more of a people in town are pretty good at not doing that, and it's more estate type homes that seem to attract Airbnb, that people, are trying to get $500-600 a day for these places and where we get the calls is for bylaw enforcement for noise and so on. So we're not seeing a lot of it, because I think we're not as touristy a center as maybe Blue Mountain and so on. But we do see them the odd time in estate and more estate lot areas.
Yeah. Jennifer, go ahead. Thank you.
There is a little bit of it, but it's not in conflict with our principles because it's more like glamping and yurts and novelty accommodations like teepees and things like that. I've seen listings in that capacity. So that doesn't overlap with the issues that we're talking about.
Oh, that's a good point, actually, Jennifer. I do know some places that just come intent on our land and what have you. So, yeah, okay. Very good. So any more discussion on that? I think we've said that the Airbnbs and the motels are really not in our bailiwick. We will look at them on a site basis, I guess. So we'll go from there. 8.2, I think Muriel, without any more discussion on that one. 8.2, Muriel, Seniors Health Fair and Housing Panel. How can
Yes.
you enlighten us?
Well, hopefully you've all been invited to the Seniors Health Fair on September 21st. Or maybe that hasn't happened yet. I don't really know, but we wanted to make sure this committee was aware of the Seniors Health Fair, and you are very much invited to come for part of the day or the whole day. Join us for lunch, whatever. But I wanted to specifically let you know that we're having a housing panel as one of our sessions. It's at this point, it's planned for 1 to 2 o'clock. And it's going to be moderated by Maurice Voisin. Am I saying that right, Jerry? Voisin?
Voisin.
Okay. I can spell it now. Yes, he's going to moderate, but at this point, we've got 6 parties or organizations involved in presenting their housing model, basically. Bottle being one of them, so talking about the Edgewood Suites, long-term care, but talking about the campus of care and the redevelopment of Rockwood Terrace, hopefully. We've got Abbeyfield. We've got, actually, Emery Shaw has agreed to come for the County of Grey housing. We have home and community support services. They do not do housing, but they help to keep people in their own homes. So it's the alternatives. It's not just alternatives to long-term care, basically, but also including some description of long-term care and its redevelopment. And I'm missing one, I think. And at the moment, I can't think what it is. Anyways, I'm scripting it a bit in that I'm asking them to talk about who their kind of housing is best suited for and who it's not, the costs, the benefits, the disadvantages perhaps, but it's only a 5 to 7 kind of minutes that they're going to have each to speak, so it will be a very brief overview, but hopefully it will just help people be aware that there are more options than just moving from being independent in their own home to long-term care, because that's sort of been the trend, I'd say, in this area for people who are older. They haven't had, options or known there were options, perhaps. There are other options besides what are going to be part of this panel. There's things like home share, and there's another one called, I was just talking about it today, NORC, which is naturally occurring retirement communities, which is sort of another model. But those could be easily introduced to this area. But so it's local possibilities. And maybe if I can get something, I'll have written material available for some of these other options that could be developed for people. So that's
Okay.
that, and I hope you'll all come.
Okay, sounds good. Any comments from committee members on what Muriel just said? Jerry, go ahead.
Only that it becomes significant to this committee. Maurice Voisin is part of a provincial group looking at aging in place so alternatives to long-term care. How it impacts this committee is that the longer people stay in their own homes, the fewer rental units or space units will be freed up then to become part of housing. So it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. It's very positive, but it will impact the numbers. So we just so that we keep it in mind going forward.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I should just
and
mention that Maurice is also going to do another session following this one, following the housing one, and it is on the what's coming out of the consultations with seniors or other people around alternatives to long-term care. So we're presenting models in the one session, but his like he's doing the session himself, the next one, and that is on what's coming out of the consultations he's been heading up.
okay. So with Jerry, oh, Jennifer, you have your hand up?
Yeah, yes, I just wanted to ask Muriel a question. So with the
Yeah.
housing share, you just mentioned it. Is that going to be a presentation? That's an alternative that is kind of a little more out there, outside the box thinking, which I think is
Good.
very positive. But is that part of the mix of presentations?
Home share? No, it isn't right now. It's probably the next one I'd go to if one of the others has to drop out for whatever reason. Right now, I think they're not sending out speakers because it's from Toronto, actually. Although they do, I think they exist as that program in other cities, but it tends to be an urban thing at the moment. I don't think it needs to be, but it is. But they do have a video presentation that we could probably get a hold of and show that way. But right now it isn't.
Okay,
That's
thank
one
you.
I'd probably like to have some written material on so people can see it as an option.
Mhm.
Well, I like the Jennifer's term about thinking outside the box. With the questions you've raised, excuse me, Muriel, with the moving away out of your house and moving away from the community, the Seniors Advisory Committee, would they be willing to do some kind of leverage for builders to do apartment buildings in Dundalk that are not lifestyle but affordable apartments? I think they have that in the plan anyway, but would that be part of what you would like to see?
I'm not just sure what all your questions sort of involving, but
Oh.
I'm going to say that Edgewood Suites is pretty good result from the Seniors Advisory Committee advocating with council. And that was before I got involved. That was the previous committee.
I'm just saying though, if I think, and Dave could correct me, but there are plans for apartment buildings, not condominiums, lifestyle seniors buildings, just affordable apartments for seniors on the ground level without going into the, I don't know if you can even say welfare now, but social assisted, but just being able to stay in the community. Would that be something that you would be wanting to kind of leverage too? Because we do need density around the four corners of Dundalk.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm sure that's something that would be and could be supported. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing and hearing none, we will move on to 8.3, Town of Blue Mountains Attainable Housing Corporation. I'm looking at my iPad. I can't see this, so hopefully somebody can enlighten me here.
So I'll
Jerry?
speak to this, Martin.
Thank you.
This actually, there's more to this story than I will present tonight. There was a discussion between a developer and the town of Blue Mountains over the percentage of attainable or affordable units that were going to be built into development. My understanding is, and I don't know enough of this to speak very long about it, but that there was a conflict. The County of Grey sided with the developer for reduced number of affordable units, and it went to some uh, uh, board hearing, and I'm not sure what came out of that. I guess I only mentioned that, and that's to say that David has from time to time said, when we've talked about ideas or projects, he said, well, the council, the Grey County is going to have to be involved in this one or whatever. I guess I'm just raising this as a, how do we start lobbying the county to be able to be put so that they throw their support behind, whether it's Town of Blue Mountains or whether it's Southgate or whatever municipality it is, and stand up for the municipality in conversations and agreements with or discussions with developers. I'll follow that though with some quite positive news. I had a conversation today and I've had an email with some links and Holly will send that out to committee members. But I was able to talk to Jennifer Bisley, who is the executive director of the Town of Blue Mountains Attainable Housing Corporation. And I'm actually going to arrange to meet with her the week of the 11th, but she has sent information on setting up corporations. And aside from the fact that it takes a while, she said, there's lots of steps and you just have to sort of be diligent. But I hope to find out some information from her around the setting up of the corporation. The other thing she mentioned was that Collingwood is hosting on June 30th, so Thursday of this week. It's an affordable housing workshop, and it's that will be part of the package too that Holly sends out. If you're interested at all, it runs Thursday from 9 till 3. It may not be everything that they talk about may not be transferable or of interest to us in Southgate, but there could be some things there. One of the things that apparently, according to Jennifer, they're looking at is trying to arrange partnerships and do things regionally, as opposed to sort of each municipality trying to striking out on their own. And she made the comment that there's no point of inventing things twice. If there's information out there and things that work, why not share them? So that's I'll have more information after I meet with Jennifer. Thanks, Martin.
Yeah, no problem. One comment. Did you mention Grey County is kind of on the fence for this?
David, do you know anything more than I do on this? My understanding was that the Town of Blue Mountains, it actually the chair of the chair of the Affordable Committee resigned over this issue. And it was because the County of Grey, for whatever reason, did not. And again, I'm just demonstrating how little I know. I don't know enough about this, but that the County of Grey sided with the developer. And who knows whether there's like legal implications, whether that was involved or I don't know.
Some of this is news to me, that's for sure. I haven't heard that issue of the county taking the other side. We could look into it further and talk to the CEO up there and find out about it.
Well, I'm wondering, our representatives on county council, and that would be Brian and Councillor Milne or Deputy Mayor Milne and the mayor, Mayor Woodbury. Anytime I've talked to them, I find they're firmly behind what this committee is trying to do, what the administration is trying to do. I would just hope that they would speak to our concerns and our needs and represent Southgate at county council. That's what I assume.
I'm just wondering if it might be a planning issue, like more of a planning department issue rather than but John couldn't make it tonight. He's at another meeting. I know that the Southeast Grey Community Health Center AGM is tonight too. But we can look into that.
Jennifer, go ahead. Hand up.
I don't know any more than Jerry, but I did read the article that was covering that issue. So it's out there somewhere in the media. So it can
Yeah.
be dug up.
Okay. Well, for my opinion on this, at certain things and certain times, regionalism is a good thing and regionalism is a bad thing. But I think with housing, it is a regional thing. So I think the county should look at us as a Southgate committee, Slogging Shores, who is one of the biggest input of growth. You know, the whole idea of doing a Southgate or not a Southgate, but the housing corporation. I think that's where regionalism is very good because it does take on a broad problem in a big geographic area. So for Grey County to say something that is quite frankly doing more for the developers than from what we need, this might come to another point in the meeting about, you know, how much power do we have to say this is what you should build in our community? They have the land, but you know, they're building communities. So
Anyway,
anyway, Dave, go ahead. So
yeah, I would suggest before we jump to assumptions,
oh no, I agree with that,
I
Dave.
think we
Sorry.
better get the county side of the story because I know there's times in Blue Mountains do take a different path to get places that doesn't always work with planning policy. So let's just get the real story before we make assumptions that the county's wrong and Blue Mountains is right. I wouldn't want to go there just yet.
Oh, I didn't mean to imply that at all, but
Oh, no, but
good for you to be here, Dave, that you know that planning and all that kind of stuff, because planning and building code and everything still has to be carried out. So we'll move forward. Any more comments on that? Seeing none. 8.4 zoning action to encourage accessory units. Again, I apologize. I'm looking at my iPad. Jerry, you take
Yeah.
on this?
This item, my understanding is Grey Highlands in the last couple of years has made it easier for accessory apartments to be built, or accessory units, garden suites, in-law suites, whatever you call them. And it's more, I'm just wondering if this is something that we could, if it's a zoning item, if we could maybe get started on trying to do something similar to what Grey Highland has done, make it easier for accessory units. So that's the only reason it's in here, just as a starting. Just maybe could we start thinking about how do we make this work better? My understanding is that someone in town, in Southgate, in Dundalk, for example, could, with less paperwork, develop an accessory unit than someone in the country with more acreage. And again, if that's a case of protecting agricultural land, that's fine, but we're also in a housing crisis. So is there some way that we can take a look at encouraging more accessory units just across the board? This would reach out beyond the town of Dundalk too.
Okay, well, I think I know where Dave's going. Your hand's up, Dave.
You're muted, Dave.
it was such great comments I was about to make. But anyway, thank you, Holly. I would suggest we shelve this discussion and get Clint to bring a report back. I believe in our new official plan, we've got very flexible policies that will facilitate that. But let's have Clint report on if there's zoning policy changes that we need to make to be more in fitting with the official plan that we just put in place.
Yeah. And thank you, Dave. And Jerry, that was something I was going to allude to too, that the official plan is there, the new one. And it kind of, I think we have a little bit more teeth, and Dave might disagree with me as far as the Grey County one. We do have a little bit more power, but they are the same thing. And I think a lot of granny suites and accessories were adopted in the new official plans for both Southgate and Gray. So always things to move on and look at in the future, but I think it's pretty well there. So any comments? Oh, Holly, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to note, so Southgate has adopted the new official plan, but it is not in place yet. We're still waiting on county approval.
Oh, okay. Good heads up there. Thank you very much. So discussions forward, I guess. So any other discussion about 8.4?
Maybe just
not,
that
go ahead,
reflect in the minute. Yeah, reflect in the minutes, if you would, Holly, that Clint will bring a report back to the next meeting of the Affordable Attainable Housing Committee.
Okay, true enough. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Holly. With that, we'll go to 8.5, developing media campaign. This could be.
That's me. We've
Jerry.
had an offer from a young gentleman who's got background in media relations. He is related to our committee member, Jennifer. Her son, Jordan, has offered to help us with the media campaign. Raising this only as is it time that we get something out on a regular basis in terms of the media campaign to let the public know what we're doing? Come and say goodnight.
Oh,
New member.
and he's he or she is the spokesperson for this. Anyway, any comments or ideas from the committee members?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Muriel.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Jennifer, is this for school for your son? Like, where is he at in education or work or whatever he's working?
Yeah, no, he's graduated. He has a degree in media communications and a post-grad
Perfect.
degree in public relations. And he's three years plus into his career. He lives right now in Stouffville, and he works not particularly in his field at the movie studio Backlot in Pickering, which does film production, as kind of the manager. But he's looking to move back into Grey County. And he's interested in social justice type issues. So yeah, he's put himself forward as offering volunteer services in whatever way might seem appropriate for the committee.
Okay.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Wearing a couple of hats here. Dave, I know this might sound like a silly question, but with Jennifer being on the board, would that be allowable in that family come in and do that kind of thing? Or is it's only a committee? Like, it sounds great. I have no problem with it, but would there be an issue that way? I'm just being the devil's advocate here. I just want everything to be good for the committee.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in relation to Jennifer being on the committee, or, I mean, if he's donating his services, if we were paying for it, would be another issue of,
Okay.
how did we procure that? But if he's donating his services, if that's the case, I think the committee should come up with an idea of what they want to do as far as media and have him create it, and then the committee approve it. If it's stuff that's going to be posted on our website, we need to screen it as well from a staff perspective. But I just think it's all positive. You just need to, I think the committee needs to, kind of put their creative hats on and figure out what do you want, what kind of effort or what kind of media campaign do you want to focus at or towards?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good point.
Is
Jennifer, I didn't mean any offense with that. You have to think about two sides of the coin here. So if he's willing to look at stuff and the committee can come up with some brainstorming ideas to see what actually might be worthy, and then worthy enough to put on the township website. I think it's, as Dave said, it's all positive. So anyway, Miro, did you have your, or Jerry, Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we want to miss an opportunity to take when someone's offering to help us like this. I just don't want it to get lost either. Would this be something that we strike a subcommittee that goes to work on this and bring something back to the next meeting? Or do we want just to have ideas floated into you, Martin, or how do we do this? Just so that we
Well,
don't lose it.
we're a committee. I get tired of subcommittees. I think if there's any idea from the panel, from the people on the committee, to just think about it and send it out to all the committee members, then we can look at that and say, okay, well, this is, God forbid, this is a silly idea, but maybe we can tweak it. Or this is a great idea. We don't need a subcommittee. This is an informal, even though important committee. I think we can get enough ideas from the committee members just to say, hey, this is good, this is good. Let's have some feedback. We have emails. We don't need meetings. This is something that we can say, hey, these are what we want, and give it to Jennifer's son. Sorry, I forgot his name, Jennifer, but give it to, and then go from there. We don't need a subcommittee. Or maybe legally, Dave got his hand up. Maybe we do need a subcommittee. I don't know. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, well, maybe one approach would be just to have media relations on every meeting agenda and talk about what we want to do for the next 30 to 60 days. In my mind, there's a couple things we could start off with right away is promoting a survey, because I think it's great to create the survey, but not sure what impetus we have behind it to get it out there. Maybe that would be a good method. Do we want a Facebook page, or do we want to, create some other social media to focus at things? And maybe, or maybe he should come to the next meeting and create some thinking smarter than I on media relations and what he would recommend.
Oh, that is a good point. So he could be the catalyst for us thinking about stuff, I guess.
So would that be fair, reasonable then to have him do a presentation, be a presenter next meeting, and bring our ideas and try to get things rolling for the next few months?
I would rather see a presentation from him, and we kind of think of what we want, and we don't need another subcommittee for committee. So that's my point. So I'm okay with that. Muriel, go ahead.
Jennifer, I'm wondering, what your son's already been aware of. Like, has he seen the report to council or the proposal for working with other municipalities, perhaps? Like, is he aware of those things already?
I haven't, I was kind of waiting to discuss this with the committee before I forwarded. We discussed forwarding things that were like in public domain,
Yeah,
to him.
yeah.
But I didn't. I just was holding back because I just wanted to bring it forward to the meeting. But he's willing and able to go through to kind of get some background because he's interested. So yeah, at this point, no, but he can be up to speed in some capacity if he was to come forward at a future meeting.
Great.
No,
Michael,
that sounds good to me. Give him some background of what we've done. The minutes there on the township website. There's all kinds of reports that have been on those agendas that are public knowledge. So I'm quite happy. This will be another step for maybe, Southgate leads sometimes in ways that are, maybe this is something for other housing committees and other townships to do to get some media going. So I'm quite happy with it. So, Holly, do we need a resolution or anything like that? It's just friendly, like just put it out there and
Yeah, we don't necessarily need one. If members would like one, we could have one, but it's not required.
no, no, I don't think we need anything. But if your son is willing to do that, certainly bring it back next time, and he can go through the process of becoming a delegation or presentation for the next meeting. That would be cool. It'd be good.
Yeah. Michael here.
Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that we need to let him know about like the Flato development, the apartment building for the seniors.
Yep.
Bring in the Grey County that I'm not sure at what point that building is going to be torn down and the new one's going to be built up there, that we're kind of involved in a little bit.
Yep.
Our getting involved with Wilson and them over there too, like that's something that we're looking at too. I just think if that stuff is out there, that people are seeing that we're actually serious about this, that we are looking for different ways. And if anybody's got any ideas, can come forward to the committee too, that get it out there, that we're open and transparent, that we're ready to listen and do with whoever, some private donor may have some money they want to donate to something too. We don't know, but if we don't get it out there and see that way too with them.
Yeah. I agree with you. With that being said, is there enough discussion about this? 8.5. I think, and I apologize to everyone, I think I skipped over 7.1 terms of reference review from Dave. I am so silly with the computer sometimes. I apologize vehemently. Dave, a review on 7.1.
Holly has her
Holly,
hand up.
do I have to make an
No, just because Dave was running late to the meeting, we skipped over staff updates and went right to new business. So we are
okay.
on track if we move up to section 7 new business.
Okay, that's
Sorry,
fine.
staff updates, my apologies.
Yep, okay. So go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so we made some changes to the terms of reference. And let me just, can we pull it up on the screen? Well, I guess everybody has it in their agenda.
Yeah, thank you.
And the principles were changed, but there was some discussion with council concerning those principles. Was there not, Holly? Here we are. There you go. Thank you. My version doesn't have it in red. So we may want to review those principles because I think there was some discussion of everyone having the rights to have a home.
Yeah.
Whether that was just the right language. I think that was the big question.
Yeah.
Is that really the right language that we should have in our principles?
Yeah. Could I add in that? I was at that council meeting there, Dave. So, yeah, there was a couple of people on council that looked at the principles, and the very first one I tended to kind of agree with after looking at it, and the two fellow team members did say that everyone has the rights to have a home. And they were looking at, the liability, and then that opens the township. Anybody can say, we have a right to have a home. And one of the questions Jerry, you could probably answer this. That came from a United Nations Charter of Human Rights. Just like everybody has the right to have clean water, everybody has the right to have a home. So it was tennis ball and back and forth. I think the number one principle is a very still good principle. It is not a law, it is not a bylaw, but it's a principle. Everyone has the right to have a home. But if you could find that subsection of the UN Charter of Rights saying that, just put that in there, and then that takes away a liability from the township. It is just a principle in effect that is worldwide. So if I can find that out too, I have all that stuff on my computer downstairs. But I think maybe change that one to as referred to United Nations. Miro, you got your hand up there?
Yeah, I think that's from United Nations, but I think it was also part of a quote from the federal minister of housing at some point. So I think it's, well, theoretically Canada follows the UN,
Well,
but
yeah.
so I think it's more than one person who has said that. So that should
Yeah.
be easy to find. But
Yeah,
and
but
it should be just right and not rights. Yeah.
yeah, but the point being though, it's a UN charter and Canada is a signatory to all the UN charters, so we don't have to repeat ourselves. Like Jerry's favorite topic is we don't want to repeat the wheel, but I think putting some clause in there, everybody does have a right to a home, but I hate to say but I think that should be added. Jennifer, you got your hand up there? You're muted.
Sorry. In addition to it being part of the United Nations and the Canadian government's following of that, it's also based on the Housing First, and I'm talking small h, small f, Housing First principles, which you'll see later on in the terms of reference. It refers back to that. Second point is we also have prefaced the survey with that kind of particular quote. It does refer in that preface on the housing survey to it being a United Nations mandate. But if that's an issue with council, then that would be a little bit of something that needs to be looked at more carefully before the survey is sent out.
Good point. Well, actually, I think Dave can confirm this, and maybe Holly if she has I think the principles that there was more of a debate over was number one, everyone has the rights to have a home. And number four, all housing projects should include a mix of market, subsidized rent, geared to income, and rent to own options, percentages to be planned. I think one of the council members said how the province is kind of stalling on this. How can we tell a developer what to be planned? I think for myself, that should stay the way it is. My only issue is the number one, everyone has the right to have a home. I think there should be something other than that. Putting my other hat on, I have to think of the township. We don't need liability. Everyone has the right to a home per United Nations, whatever. So you can read the other two, number three, number four. I'm okay with them. Number one is something that we have to look at just to change it. And Jennifer, thank you very much for putting that notion out there that it is in the survey with the Charter of UN rights. So Jerry, what's your take on this?
I think if we can just confirm again that quote came from the United Nations, then why don't we just substitute the first principle to supports the rights of Southgate residents, or something to the effect that includes that same language. If it's been researched already and it's attributed to the United Nations, maybe we double check that, and
Well,
then it's consistent between the survey and the principles.
yeah. Well, it had to be in the survey for a reason. I'm pretty sure, Jerry, you mentioned it. So, so my memory is not that good at times, but I think that the first one is something that we have to add that in, because we don't want everybody saying, hey, we have a right to a house when we don't have the houses. So, and there is
Well,
liability there. So,
so it's a little less. It doesn't talk about houses in the survey. It's to live somewhere in security, peace, and dignity. We can assume that that means a decent place to live, a home. But
yeah.
if that's all it takes to get the council behind these principles, then why don't we just substitute from the survey that quote in as principle number one?
Yeah, and if it comes from the United Nations, how can anybody argue with it? Well, there's going to be people who argue with it, but I think that would be. I'm okay with 2, 3, and 4. I hope every other council member, every other committee member is. This is our community. We should be able to have a say. They bought the land, but we should have a say in what our community is. So, number one is the sticking point with me. So, if everybody's okay on the committee to say, oh, and Dave is up there, his hands up. Thoughts, Dave?
I'm just wondering if point number 4, it
Yep.
does say should. We can't say shall because we can't force them to do if they don't want to come forward with a plan that has affordable housing in it. We can't force them to. And I just wonder if we should drop this piece of, in brackets, percentages to be planned, because I think we're looking for developers that have the right development goals in mind for our community. And but I just wonder if that whole piece in brackets really kind of contaminates percentages to be planned. I'm not sure we know what percentages we should have right now until we get survey results and so on. Where I think just the principle of saying they should include that mix.
Okay.
I think we can shame people or planners, or sorry, not planners, but shame developers into it. This is one of our principles, and you really should work around that with some level of whatever 5-10%.
Okay.
But
Well, that's a good point, Dave.
I'd like to comment on point number 1 as well. I think the concern that was spoken out of council is that there wasn't disagreement with the right to housing, but there was disagreement with if you're not willing to work for whatever level of housing that's affordable to you. Like if somebody's just going to go show up at our door and say, hey, township, you say that everyone has a right, where's my home? Yeah. That's kind of the concern. So, and I get it. I get both sides of it. I mean, we don't want to see people on the street. That's the last thing. But if we can maybe work at that
I certainly, sorry, Dave. And I certainly didn't mean anybody on council. They just looked at those 2 points. They did not disagree in principle of the principles. They thought there maybe be some tweaking. And a couple of years ago, the housing projects, it was, and I always had a stickler with this, it was up to 30% of a development. And that was just a pie in the sky number. So perhaps if agreed with the board tonight or committee, Dave mentioned a very good point, should include a mix. Percentages to be planned. There's nothing from the province to say 30%, 10%. I think that's where our job as a committee is to say, this is our community, put an apartment block here, do this. So perhaps, Dave's right, get rid of that percentages to be planned, because those percentages are already in the mix. We can dictate or chat and say, hey, 15%. So.
I agree
Comments?
with taking percentages to be planned. Take that out of number 4. I agree with that.
Okay. And with number
Just
1 then, everyone has the right to have a home as per whatever the wording is for the UN Charter rights, which Canada is signatory to.
So what if we just say everyone has the right, and then start the quote, to live somewhere in security, peace, and dignity, and then reference the United Nations Charter.
Okay. Dave, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so I'm just writing something as, maybe we could start it off as the first principle being just saying, in keeping with the United Nations housing charter, or getting the right terms there. And I think what Jerry said would be good. I think maybe if we're going to use rights to have a home, maybe we take out the word S, right? There is a right to have a home, not rights. Rights
Yep.
seems more belonging. A right, if you want to, you have a right to.
Yeah. Good point. Okay.
Maybe we can flush that out and come back with, or Jerry, did you want to make a motion along what you were just saying?
I would like to just be absolutely sure that we are referencing, because it's in quotation marks, we probably should have a little, maybe a little more complete reference, like where exactly is it from the United Nations Charter, where exactly did it come from? And then just include that everyone has the right, quotation mark, to live somewhere in security, peace, and dignity, end of quotation, bracket, United Nations, and then whatever document that
Yep.
came out of.
Yep. Do that. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Maybe, can I suggest that Holly and Jerry and I will work together to try and formalize that and share it with the committee before the next meeting?
Okay. And that is fine by me. I know this is only a committee, but would everybody like to have a 2-minute break? And we'll come back online. Is that okay? Just 2 minutes. That would be good. And then we will go into number 9, correspondence. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, I think we're just at 7.2 though.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong sheet. So give me a couple of minutes. I appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Holly, was there any other changes in that terms of reference before we leave that?
No, it will just be the ones that were discussed that we can bring.
Yeah, okay. There's nothing else in red that we had modified?
Yeah, that's correct.
Good. Okay.
Holly, is it okay that if we came up with the wording that we send it out before the next meeting, and then can the committee approve this virtually or by email, or is it best to come back to the committee meeting?
Yeah, so we would need to come back to the committee to approve it by resolution. Yeah, so going forward.
Yeah.
What would be the date of our next meeting? Do we have that set in stone here?
July 26th.
And Holly, what's the next council meeting after that? That's August 3rd or something like that?
It would be the first week of August.
Okay, that would give us still time, like, we can still get it to the next council meeting, get it ratified then. Because the Thursday after the Tuesday would be council agenda day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
my-
just wait for members to come back before we come off of our recess, Councillor Shipston, and then we can continue.
Yeah, my apologies for that. I had another phone call and that kept going on. So we'll come back into the meeting at 8:05. So
Councillor Shipston, can we just verify that all members are back so that we have a quorum of the committee? So member DeJong, Councillor Shipston, and member McCannell,
Yep.
before we return to the committee.
Okay. And they're not here yet. So
I'm still here.
oh,
I didn't log
thank
in.
you.
I'm still here.
Okay, yep, we do have quorum then, so we can continue.
Okay, thank you. And apologies, Jerry. 7.2. Hi, Jennifer. 7.2, Jerry.
Yeah, so David and I presented to the, well, actually, I introduced David and he presented the council recommendation report as well as the Housing Corporation proposal. And it was well received. That was my impression. And it did have a little bit of conversation about the Lions Medical Building build. And maybe is there anything you want to add, Dave, to the press that evening? It was well worth going, I think.
Yeah, I think we made some, I'll call it some good relationships with them, the better understanding of what your committee does and what Southeast Gray's interest is. So I think it was very positive, and likely something we should do on an annual basis too, because I think they're a good community partner going forward to work with.
That sounds great. Jerry, you've worked with these people quite often. Is this the first time they've dealt with affordable housing committees? They do go, they're quite broad in their field. So
This is, I would think, fair to say that this is the first time that they've embarked on a project like this. They have in the past taken over buildings and repurposed them and set up for different uses, but I think this might be the first time that it relates to housing. Although most of the housing that they have done has been within their own organization. So, and they have about, I think, just around 50 units of housing now throughout Grey County. And as far away as Owen Sound, from Dundalk to Owen Sound. So they're definitely in the housing business, but what they will say is that philosophically their primary mandate is to support people with developmental challenges.
Yeah.
That's their primary business. It just so happens that if they can do housing and figure that part of it out for some people, that sort of that solves a lot of problems if the housing can be sort of.
and quite a while ago, Dave said this is going to be the hardest committee ever formed in Southgate because of all those little tendrils that go out and all those little things that, as a society, we have to look at. And it's not just one thing, it's a holistic. So that is good. So I'm glad Dave, thank you for showing that presentation, by the way. It's all been good.
I just have one other
Sure.
thing just to file a little historical fact that the Southeast Grey Support Services actually began in 1961 as the Dundalk and District Association for the Mentally Retarded. It started in Dundalk. I don't know if there are any board members still living from that founding members, but that's where it started. And then it moved from there to Markdale, I think 2 or 3 years later. So there's some history there. They haven't been doing over the last few years not enough work in Dundalk. I always was pushing them to do more and more stuff in Dundalk and in Southgate. But certainly I do think they are good partners. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay. All right. Any other comments or discussion on that? We'll move to 7.3, the Lions Medical Building. Who's going to take that one?
All I'll say is that it's ongoing.
Yep.
There's been a sample or a draft agreement circulated to Southeast Grey Support Services. There are a couple of things that have to be sorted out, but they are still actively interested in developing apartments there.
Okay, good.
Maybe
Hearing
I'll
that.
add to that.
Go ahead, Dave.
Maybe I'll just add to that. So I think things will speed up when right now the Southeast Grey Community Health Center has what they call, I think it's phase 6, and the final phase is phase 7 for ministry approval, and that's just confirming space, accommodations, and so on. So they're at the final stage, and once money gets allocated to build the new medical center, I think that will speed up the process of what's going to be done with the old medical center, the Lions Medical Center. So, I mean, I think Jerry reported it very accurately that the discussions are, I think, ongoing and continuous, and they're supported by the Lions Club. It's just we need to make sure there's space in the new location for the Lions to hold their events or their meetings.
Yep, for sure. Yep. Okay, the next bullet, 7.3, presentation of Housing Corporation proposal to surrounding municipalities. So I guess, Dave, is that in your bailiwick there, or do we move forward with that next year to go ahead and talk to them?
Yeah, so just to update you, we have we didn't get some of the meetings on as timely as I'd hoped, but I believe we're on board for Hanover on August the 8th at 4 o'clock. And it was kind of tough, Jerry. So I just went ahead and booked these, and I've got a commitment that the mayor will attend if you can, or we can get somebody else. Grey Highlands, I believe, is tentatively set for Wednesday, August the 3rd at 1 p.m. And West Grey is likely August the 9th at 9 a.m. That's a Tuesday. There still may be an opportunity. It could be July the 12th at 9 a.m. But the clerk is on vacation, I think, so that has to be confirmed with them.
Yeah.
And they'll be back on July the 4th, so we'll have those all confirmed up by then.
Okay.
So that's Grey Highlands, August the 3rd, Hanover, August the 8th at 1. Both those are at 1. And then West Grey could be July 12th, but more likely be August the 9th, and both of those are at 9 o'clock p.m.
Okay. A question for me, Jerry, Dave, because I do work. How long do you expect those meetings to last then? Like an hour and a half, 2 hours? Because I think
I
should at least go to one of them.
Yeah, likely 30 minutes. We'll have 20 minutes to present, likely 15, 20 minutes to present, and then questions.
Okay, so
they won't be more than half an hour.
Okay. If you can, when they're confirmed, can you send them to me then?
Sure. Yep.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great. Okay. Any other comments from committee members about that? Seeing none and hearing nothing, we're going into, we can go into number 8, new business. I think we've already done that. So we'll transfer. Oh, Holly, you have your hand up. What did I mess up now?
Yeah, so we'll be moving on to correspondence, which is number
Yes.
9.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So there was a letter come in talking about affordable and attainable housing committee in the area of alternative housing. Holly, yes, thank you.
Or if we could just get a mover and seconder to put it on the floor.
Oh, can I have a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move.
Okay, Morgan, thank you.
Yep.
Sure.
I'll
Uh,
second.
and you second. It was a very now that it's on the floor, a very lengthy letter. Something that I think the housing committee should look at, though, in the fact of not affordable, but maybe alternative housing. I've read through it. I've had a lot of people that I know who have worked at places like this. So just looking for comments now. My only comment basically is I had a friend whose son worked at one of these places. They made straw bale houses. Yes, it is alternative, but everything has to still be done by zoning and public planning and building code. So I think this is a worthy letter information to keep on hand because this is going to happen. But I think the main impetus is no matter what building goes up, it is building code, zoning, and what have you. But it is out there because the alternative is a lot cheaper. That is my point. So Jerry, comments?
I think we should acknowledge receipt of this in whatever normal way the municipality would receive or a committee would receive,
Yeah.
and let it go at that. Just to thank
Okay.
for the information and carry on.
Holly, you agree with that?
Yeah, if that is what the committee would like to do, we would just use the resolution on the agenda. So be it resolved that the committee receive the items on the correspondent consent agenda dated June 28th as information.
Okay. A good letter to keep as information, and that is what we're going to do. So, be resolved that the committee receive the items on the correspondent consent agenda dated June 28th, 2022, and just keep it as information. Is that right to say that, Holly? Okay. And I have a mover and a seconder for that. Holly, your hand up again.
Yeah, we do have a mover and seconder already, so it would just be if there was opposition.
Okay, thank you. Any opposition to that? Hearing and seeing none, that is carried. So we're coming down to number 10, the next meeting, which is up in the forecast, July 26th, 2022 at 7. Yes, Jerry?
Are we at the point that we might consider an in-person meeting?
I know we're having some in person. That is up to Dave. What do you think about that, Dave? Where would it be? And
So I'm going to ask Holly, do we have to record these meetings?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Could we record them in Hopeville, or do we need to go to the new council chambers in Holstein?
We would need a good question.
Could we
I
go to
think
I'm not sure we're ready to go to the McIntyre building or the meeting room in Hopeville yet with hybrid or with a recording system, are we?
Yeah, I think that it would definitely be easier to just wait for council chambers to be ready with
Yeah.
the
So
technology that's there.
we could be really close to having in-person by July 28th. Sorry, was it July 28th?
yeah, 26. So
26. By the end of the July, if not for sure in August, but we could
and we
try
do
and
have a
head that
meeting,
direction.
and we do have a meeting every month, right? I don't have the
Yes.
calendar in front of me. So why not, Jerry? It'd be great to see everybody. Dynamics are different when we're talking to everybody in person. Let's try the July 26th. Let's do a virtual again. And then in August, hopefully things don't get to the point where we can meet. That's giving a lot of time for all the techies to do their stuff and what have you. So is that fine with everybody on the committee?
Yep.
Looking forward to meeting people, but looking forward in the calendar also. So is that okay? So
Yep.
next meeting, yep, you're good to the chair. Next meeting virtually July 26th at 7 p.m. then. So thank you everybody. Thank you, Holly, for putting your hand up when I did wrong. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the comments. Jennifer has her finger. I saw your thumb.
Yeah. So just to clarify, are we asking Jordan, my son, to present at the next meeting, July 26th? And how is it, am I the person that is contacting him about that, or how's that working?
Good question. For my comments, what we talked about the media campaign, I thought we were just if he could go onto the websites and look at our reports over the last year
Right.
and look at other housing committee things and just see what everybody else is doing. If he can just get a feel off that,
Right.
and then we don't want him to spend a lot of time on it, but if you can get an impression and some facts behind that, then I think maybe if everybody's okay for a presentation on the 26th, then that's fine. If he wants to go into depth a little bit more, then it could still be virtual, I would think, in August. So, but maybe ease
Oh,
for him.
okay.
Do it virtual, just so he can show us some stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
How
So
does that?
July is virtual at this point. He is living in Stouffville at this point, but will be moving back, I believe, to the area sometime later in the summer.
Okay.
So,
Maybe
so
maybe virtual is the way to do it then, love.
okay. So, but is that, am I contacting him then? That's okay with the committee members to fill him in at this point based on the
You,
meeting?
yeah, you have his contact information.
Okay.
He knows what he
Okay.
wants to do. So
Okay.
if anybody is in disagreement with that, say it now, but
I'm, I'm, I'm fine. Let's go ahead.
Okay.
yeah, just give us an idea, like
Just wanted
he's
to
doing
clarify.
a
Okay.
layout. I
Yep.
think it's important to carry on over and above next year's council to have something in stone. Well, not in stone, but something to show, after the election that we mean business, basically,
Okay.
without being arrogant about it. Okay, so does that answer your question, Jennifer?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're at the end of the meeting. So adjournment. I don't need a second or anything, do I, for this?
We just need a mover for it.
Yeah. Muriel? Actually, Morgan, will you move the adjournment at 2024?
Yes, I will.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anyway, good discussion, guys. Dave, thanks for all your help on this. Muriel, Jerry, everyone. Good meeting. I think we got some other stuff done. It's a long process. We keep charging forward. Okay. Have a
Have a
great
great day,
evening.
everyone.
Good
Have a
night,
Night all.
great,
everybody.
have a great Canada Day too. So
Bye.
God bless you.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Bye.